Howdy folks, it is Scanner here. Today's video I want to do some speculation. I want to talk about one of my favorite mysteries in Trench Crusade, which is the city of Argos. Now before I get stuck into this too much, I am going to point out I don't normally do speculative videos. I like to do soft canony stuff. I like to mess around in the unreliable narrator area of the game, and I like to talk about the official lore and what is confirmed. They're kind of the two areas I like to dabble in. Speculation, less my thing, but I'm in the mood to think and talk about Trench Crusade because I've been thinking and talking about it a tremendous amount behind the scenes with different people. So when it comes to Argos, in the Trench Crusade timeline in 1477, it states that the city of Argos is taken by God and it is no more. That is very clearly a reference to Enoch in the Bible, where it says Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more, because God took him away, or various variations of that phrasing depending on the Bible that you were reading and the translation of said Bible that you were reading. That's where it all gets a little bit confusing. But it certainly seems to be referential to Enoch and what happened to Enoch. And the reason Enoch was taken away was because he was an extremely faithful individual. And there's a lot of back and forth as to why God would have done that. Enoch is one of just two people in the Bible who is taken away, who essentially goes to heaven without experiencing death. The other one being Elijah. So I was having a little think about what do Enoch and Elijah have in common? And the only thing they actually have in common, from what I can gather, is that they were both, even in the terms of the Bible, where a lot of people are very faithful, they were extremely faithful individuals. They had tremendous amounts of faith in God. So perhaps that is indicative that Argos and the people of Argos, for whatever reason, were deemed to be incredibly faithful by God in the Trench Crusade universe, and so they were taken away. Now, it could also just be that is the in-universe interpretation of what happened. That, like, Argos was taken away. It doesn't speak of any kind of tremendous cataclysm. It doesn't speak of any kind of destruction, just that Argos was gone. So it certainly seems like it was taken by God instead of destroyed in some way. So what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to think about the Bible. Two people were taken away without experiencing death. And we have later in the Bible, well, I guess later in the Bible, we have mention of two very important people. And they're never named, and we don't know who exactly they are. And this is just like an interesting and odd interpretation that you can kick around if you want to. But there are two witnesses to Revelation. And you could argue maybe those are Enoch and Elijah. Maybe that's why they were taken away, because they were there to witness the revelation. And I think it would be super cool. People ask all the time if God is going to get involved, if he's going to do something. That's a bigger question for another day overall. But what if that's why he took Argos? What if God had actually taken Argos to do the thing that allows the demons to essentially work their way around the covenant of hell, right? True demons can't go to earth. If they do, angels show up and everything gets absolutely nukified. So they can kind of contravene the covenant of hell by having things of human origin with a bit of demon in them, and bestial origin with a bit of demon in them, and just straight up messed up humans fighting for them. That is kind of how they get around it. What if God did the same thing? What if God took Argos? What if the people of Argos were extremely faithful? God was like, you'll do. You will do in a pinch, folks. Takes the whole place and is altering them in some way. making them kind of stronger, better, faster, weirder. The way I like to see it is, I know it's very tempting to lean into the idea of they will come back very angelic looking and with wings and beautiful and with halos and all this kind of stuff. But I prefer the idea that they'll come back all fucked up. Just really weird looking, less human than built for purpose by a divine mind who is far removed from what the human experience is at that point in time and cares less about the human experience than he does about the form following the function. I think that would be kind of groovy and funky and would lead to a very, very interesting faction in the game and would give a way for God to be having some kind of impact or say or direct poking, if you will, of the things that are going on in Trench Crusade. Now, as I said, that is all simply speculation that might occur, that God is preparing the people of Argos to be quote-unquote witness to, because Trench Crusade does deviate heavily, obviously, from real-world fate and scripture and things like that. It would be less to witness it and more to be involved in it. Further into Revelations, there is talk of, where is it? And if anyone would harm them, fire pours from their mouth and consumes their foes. If anyone would harm them, this is how he is doomed to be killed. They have the power to shut the sky that no rain may fall during the days of their prophesying, and they have power over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they desire. So like you could have a bit of fun with that, I think, and give them some interesting abilities and all the rest of it. But as I said, that is just speculation. That is what I think I would do were I one of the designers, and if I got to the point where I felt, right, now it's time to introduce an actual God-touched faction to some degree to show that he is there, just if that's where they ended up going with their world building and with their desire to do so. Now, I still maintain overall, I don't think anything's ever going to come of it. I think that they really do a great job of world building with mystery and just leaving stuff out and leaving questions, and that is for many reasons why the game is as fun as it is and why the world of the game is as fun as it is, excuse me. But it could just be a fun and interesting conversation piece. Jump into the comments, let me know what you think the dealio is with Argos. What do you think is going on? Do you think it's going to have a much later payoff or not? I'm still inclined towards a no. I think they have so much to do. They have the entire rest of the world to explore. We already know they have many additional factions cooking, even outside of what's going to be in the official first lump of a rulebook, right? They're going to have all the factions and sub-factions in there. And then they're going to have Temple of Metamorphosis, the Hebrew Knights, Crusader Knights at some point. Well, some version, I guess, of Crusaders. And the Path of the Beast and lots of other stuff on the way. So, yeah, I just think it's really fun and really interesting to think about that kind of stuff. And were it me, I would probably goof around in the area, theory craft up a bunch of stuff, maybe get some art rolling, some concept art rolling, and see how it played out and how it fit in my head if I were one of the devs. So yeah, that's my speculation. Let me know your speculation in the comment section. I hope you're having a wonderful week. This week's going to be pretty interesting on the channel. Stay tuned and all the best.